Today we are talking about DART and why that May 2nd pullout election is not going to happen. Also, the mayor's race.
Another issue of the Irving Herald is off the press. First copies of Irving's newspaper were distributed the very day lots were auctioned off to start the city of Irving.
Just a reminder on DART before we start. That's our regional transit authority in DFW with the city of Dallas and member cities in the inner ring suburbs. Not all of them, but 13 member cities who contribute sales tax. So 1% of all sales tax goes to DART, and member cities are paying millions and millions of dollars for the services of DART, which is light rail, buses, paratransit, the TRE. And for these millions of dollars, they're not necessarily getting the benefit in terms of services or ridership. In the case of Irving, very few people use DART, and we see that with these big empty buses circling our city. Let's get to the conversation.
And who would have imagined, like Frisco now, huge center of gravity, which was basically a dot on the map, 20, 30 years ago. And they have, as far as I know, they have zero interest in becoming part of DART. I know it's a bit north, but at the same time, that's a huge population center now. That if you're going to have a mass transit system, you would want that to be part of that, and they're not interested in joining.
Because of this management, who would want to join something and just become a cash cow that's really heavily benefiting someone else, and that someone else is Dallas.
Correct.
Dallas is getting way more for their money. They have tens of thousands of people who rely on it, and they have the majority vote. So they have 8 votes. The DART board did these 15 votes, and Dallas controls it having 8 of the votes. Irving, we have 1 vote.
Yeah.
So we go to them hat in hand and ask for things like smaller buses, or GoLink, which is the microtransit service from DART, which doesn't really work because there's all these separate zones you have to make transfers. Well, why can't all of Irving be one zone? They're not interested in listening to us.
Yeah. And to put the population proportions into perspective, we have 1 vote out of 15, correct? So, but Irving actually comprises about 10% of the population of the DART service area. So the total population actually of the DART service area is just a little over 2.5 million if you include Dallas, Addison, Carrollton, and the other and Irving and the other 13 cities that are part of the program. Dallas actually has just a very slight majority. You would think that Dallas would have a super majority of population, but we actually have that Dallas actually has only about 1.3 million, which is just shy over 51% of the population of the entire area. So in a lot of respects, their voting shares is disproportionate to their population share, and that could easily change, right, over the years as the suburbs continue to grow. It's not inconceivable that in the next 10, 15 years that the Dallas suburbs will actually eclipse the city of Dallas in its population. And is the DART board structure going to change with those population shifts?
No. Well, it is supposed to change according to population shifts, but it just isn't working for these suburbs like Irving. And actually, Plano is getting the rawest of deals. Plano puts about in what we put in, 116 million or something like that. They only get something like 45 million of services.
Yeah.
So they were leading this charge, and maybe we could talk about what just happened.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So what just happened was Plano was the ringleader of getting these cities, including Irving, including Farmers Branch, including Highland Park, to have votes to pull out of DART. That can only happen once every 6 years. So next year is the year that it can happen. So these city councils all voted, including Irving unanimously, city council voted to, well, it's not really to pull out of DART, it's to throw it to the electorate. So there's going to be a vote May 2nd where the citizens can decide, are we going to pull out of DART? And Plano was the ringleader of this back in early November. But then almost immediately after that, they came to DART and they're saying, okay, if you give us some of our money back, we'll reverse this. So they kind of pulled the rug out from under Irving with this idea of forcing change. Because like you're saying, it's the governance structure that needs to change. It's basically DART treating Irving poorly. If we were a partner and they were working with us and they were trying to do things to boost ridership, well, then the city council would say, well, we're paying a lot of money, but they're working with us and we're going to see the effects of the money we're spending. But because they treat us just like a cash cow and that's it, and there's all these other needs that we have, we're 140 policemen short, it's going to take us 5 years to get up to 4-man crews on fire trucks.
Yes.
There's $800 million of road repairs. There's all these things we need to do, but we're spending all of this money on DART. It actually costs per citizen $400 for DART annually.
Okay.
Road repairs is $75.
Yeah.
And yet nobody's using DART and everybody's driving. So there's just this imbalance that the city council is seeing.
Yeah, and
that's
that's
to address.
That's another good point. Like, how many regular DART users are there in the city of Irving?
Well, it's estimated at 1%.
1%. Okay, so that'd be about somewhere between, so around 2,500 people.
Correct.
Oh wow.
Not
Okay.
that many people who are relying on it on a day-to-day
Wow.
basis.
1%. Okay, so that's what, 115 million? Is it 115 million dollars, somewhere around there?
Right. Yep.
Essentially paying for the regular ridership of about 2,500 people. And you do the math, that's like $45,000 per regular rider. That's a very nice automobile, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, that's you could buy every Irvingite who relies on DART a new BMW 2 Series.
Okay.
Every
All right.
year.
I would take
with
that.
the money.
I would take that.
So,
Yeah, do I get to ride on a bus or do I get to drive my own BMW? I'll take the BMW.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Even on the bumpy roads, I think I take the BMW. So.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's something to think about, right? You know, I think the citizens of Irving have, you know, a real decision to make about the extent of money that we want to be spending on it. I think that, you know, again, to give the devil his due, I think that there's good intentions behind DART. And I think that the idea of what DART was going to be and what the services that DART was going to provide hasn't exactly materialized as we've imagined. I think we have a situation where the people of Dallas, the Dallas area, they just don't want to be taking buses and trains. They want to drive to work. And I think you see that every day. Every time you get on the highway and drive to work, you see it. I think everybody wants everyone else to ride the buses and the trains. To free up the space on the freeway, but nobody themselves actually wants to get onto the train. So you have like this kind of this population of maybe these, I don't know, environmentally conscious people, or maybe folks that are just want to reduce don't want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But it's like I said, it's a very small minority of citizens, especially in Irving.
And you know, it's interesting what has developed since DART was created, and that's Uber. That's these micro-transit services that can really get people from point A to point B without having to transfer, without having to walk, without having to wait, and take you right where you want to go. And so that's the thinking here with pulling out of DART, because DART is playing hardball, and they're saying, all right, if you pull out May 2nd, on May 3rd, the trains will zip right by. There's no light rail, there's no buses. Everything stops the day after. So Irving, that's what's happening right now, is City Council is looking intensely at what are the other solutions.
Correct.
And the solutions would be something like Arlington does with their micro-transit, getting their citizens around without big buses and without DART trains.
that seems like a reasonable solution. You could probably provide good transportation, much more efficient, much more, efficient transportation for the folks here in Irving for a fraction of the cost. I mean, for $115 million is a lot of money. I would imagine for, like I said, a small fraction of that, you can provide better services to the people that actually need it, the people that are going to use it. But you also think that this DART referendum is not going to happen.
Well, can you imagine that? Can you imagine all the buses and trains stopping? I mean, that would be, everyone would kind of lose their minds about that right before the World Cup.
Yeah.
There are concentrated benefits, there are people that use it, but there's also broad public support for DART.
Yeah.
So we saw this in the November council meeting. There were a lot of speakers who came into the mic from outside Irving. But even looking at just the speakers from Irving, there were 16 people in favor of not holding the election and 5 against it, who wanted to hold the election, who wanted to pull out of DART, who understood these numbers.
Yeah.
But to a lot of people, pull out of DART, why would you pull out of DART? That's not something we should do. And polls show that. There was a poll, Ross Hunt's outfit did a poll of not Irving, but 2 neighboring cities, and also found an 80-20 split, exactly what we saw at City Council. So there would have to be a lot of education of citizens on this issue for this to pass in the May 2nd election.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot of political fallout. So it's unlikely, and Plano is no longer the ringleader.
Yeah.
So I think it's unlikely to even happen.
It is a May election, so it is a municipal election, which means turnout generally is quite a bit less than what you would see, like, say, in a general election. It's probably, a small fraction, just because people tend to not, for whatever reason, I mean, I think it's a bad thing, but they tend to not pay attention to municipal elections. Is there a shot at actually moving the needle in the right direction towards a DART pullout by May 2nd?
Yeah, good question. Well, this would all be in the context of a mayor's race.
Mm-hmm.
So it would definitely be an issue in the mayor's race, and there would be that opportunity to educate citizens. That just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it would be very costly. We would have to pay, we would be responsible for DART's debt.
Yeah.
So it would be paid.
And how many years would that be?
Oh, at least 5 or 6.
Okay.
So it'd be a painful pullout.
Yeah.
But the thinking is do it now, because the next shot you get under state law is 6 years later,
Yeah.
2032.
And that is an interesting point, right? Because it does seem like there's this big fire drill going on in the Dallas area, right? In the DART service area. All these different cities contemplating pulling out, or at least putting out this referendum in front of the voters. And it seems like it's all happening all at once. And that is an important distinction to consider, that this 2026 is one of the few pull-out years that we have. But 1 out of every 6 years affords us this opportunity.
Yeah.
The next opportunity would be in 2032, and then after that, 2038. So these opportunities are few and far between.
It would be, if we were able to pull out and use that money for other things, that would be great. It's very forward thinking of council.
Yes.
Council was united on this, but it's just unlikely to happen. I mean, it's probably going to be a state solution. So, the idea was all of these suburbs are going to pull out, and it's going to cause DART to collapse, and then what arises from the ashes of DART will have a better governance model.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thinking. There was a bill in the Texas Ledge, the DART killer bill.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Tell us about the DART killer bill.
Well, it was Matt Shaheen out of Plano saying, we're going to take back 25% of this 1% sales tax is going to go back to the cities.
Okay.
And DART says, well, that's DART killer, that makes it affordable. And it would cause DART to collapse. So that bill got out of committee, died on the floor, but is likely to come back next session. DART really doesn't want that to come back. They did a plan with other cities. We'll give you 5% back if you promise not to lobby the legislature.
Well, yeah. I mean, like when you're talking about representatives in the state legislature from the Dallas area, well, that's very few, right? So, yeah, you definitely could convince a lot of legislators that don't really have stake in the game and voting against DART. That's a much easier fight, I think, than having to convince city councils, whose populations may or may not, it's a big may, right? May or may not rely on DART. There would be political fallout from that, right? Because the buses would stop, the trains would keep rolling through, but they wouldn't stop at the stations. I agree that's a heavy political risk to take, even though the long-term benefits I think would be positive. I think that maybe that's the best solution in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking at governance of DART at the state level, some kind of legislation, is probably where this is going. But there's things. I mean, if DART started working with us and listening to our demands, which is basically to have a flourishing public transportation system, we don't like it not because there aren't lots of buses coming through. We don't like it because people aren't using the buses.
Correct.
And they're not interested in working with us, and they're doing things like ending bus service. So the 225 and the 255 are going to end January 9th.
Yeah.
So there are hundreds of people, not that many, but hundreds of people who use those bus routes. Well, what is going to happen with that? So that's happening.
So even the services, even the small contingency of the population that uses this are not really getting their money's worth, because I mean 600 out of 2,500, that's a big chunk of the 2,500 that use it regularly.
Yes.
And now they're not even getting the
It's
services.
30% of our bus routes are being funded.
Yeah.
And 5 train stations won't have bus service. And so we are saying to DART, what the heck?
Oh,
And
yeah.
DART is saying,
what would you do? I guess
don't know.
when you get to the train station, you have to call an Uber.
you would.
Yeah.
You would.
What are you trying to get?
It's-
Or just take the Shoelace Express, as they say.
It's not.
You know?
It's not connecting these
Wow.
things. DART says it's because they want to save money. We ask them how much money is it saving, and they are not forthcoming with that. So it's just a lot of frustrations pent up over the years. You can see that in the mayor's tenor of voice responded at the November council meeting.
Yeah.
And then this month at the January work session, it was funny at the end. It was like a hostage negotiation where the mayor had his list of demands.
Yeah.
And the list of demands are just things that we would like to see happen. I mean, there's DART stations we would like to be built. Actually, we're here in Waterway Cafe in Las Colinas, not a mile away. It was a DART station that was supposed to have been built
Yeah.
and never was. And DART is doing things like building the Silver Line, right? Not getting new member cities, but giving Capel a la carte service for their Cypress Waters station. And it's like, wait a minute, we are just being treated as a cash cow. So that's why council wants to look out for the citizens. We're paying all this money, what are we getting out of it?
Yeah, and you mentioned too, Las Colinas. We have how many stations? Like one station in Las Colinas, right? One major station, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be wrong, but yeah, the people that work in downtown Las Colinas, it's like 150,000 people that work here, as opposed to there's about 135,000 people who work in downtown Dallas. And downtown Dallas has a ton of stations, tons of connections, tons of bus service. And it's walkable to boot. Yeah, you'd think that we would get maybe more bus stations, routes in this area where so many people work.
And an urban circulator. So that's one of the things the mayor always talks about. Is can we have a bus going around picking people up, taking them to the train station? So there's these good ideas we have, but the mayor, as our representative to DART, brings forth these ideas, and it's just not listened to.
Just falling on deaf ears.
DART can do whatever they want, including issuing debt without having to take it to voters.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this unaccountable system that's not working for her.
Yeah, and Dallas, of course, like we talked about before, does have a disproportionate voice in this matter. whatever Dallas wants, I think Dallas is going to get at the expense of Irving and Plano.
They're getting a lot of
Richardson
benefit.
taxpayers. Yeah.
They're getting a lot of benefit. Yeah.
So what we
it's
should
gonna be, yeah, it's going to be a interesting spring on this issue to see where this lands. There's the big council meeting in January. Mayor's giving state of the city in January. We'll see where we're at that with Dart. But January is also when candidates for mayor file for election.
Yeah.
So this will be a part of the mayor's campaign, I'm sure.
So yeah, tell me about the mayor's race. Like, who are the big players right now, as of this moment?
Right, so it's looking like Herb Gears is going to run. Former mayor, he was mayor of Irving 20 years ago, two-term mayor. Al Zapata, current city councilman, more likely be running. Also, Gerson Hernandez,
Okay.
a young guy who ran for a House seat against Terry Meza.
Yes.
Got a nice chunk of the 2020 loss in the Republican primary 2 years later. But it's an interesting candidate, a lot of energy, and to be able to run a big campaign. Those are the big players.
The big players right now. Okay. And so if Al Zapata decides to run, that would vacate his District 6 seat, correct? And so I imagine that there might be a special election for his seat, because he would have to basically vacate his seat in order to declare that he was running, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Okay.
right.
All right. So that would make it even more interesting. We might have some more city council seats up for grabs next May.
Well, we have two, right? We have District 6 and District 3.
Correct.
So Abdul Kabir and Mark Cronin will be running for re-election.
Okay, they're going to be defending their seats.
Plus
okay.
the mayor's race, which is a big one. The mayor has a lot of power in Irving.
Yep.
And Dart will be a big
Yeah,
issue.
it's stop for terms out. So this will be the mayor's seat will be empty, which probably explains why there's a lot of people interested. And then of course, District 6, I guess, there's a question mark there. Could that also come up for election as well? Could be an interesting season.
Yeah, well, we'll be covering it, so tune in. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Waterway, shout out to Waterway Cafe, delightful little coffee shop here in Las Colinas. See you next time.
Thanks.